Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show, where we talk about food, fashion, finance, and foundations of life. We are live on KCAA Radio Broadcasting Network. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Up Connect, and Building Solid Foundation.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. I am your host, Lynette LaRoche, and I am thankful to have this opportunity to share an amazing guest with you. But if you missed any of our previous shows, please make sure that you subscribe to Solid Foundation's channel, which you will see that we are affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, NBC Sports, and you'll be able to catch us on Roku TV, on Amazon Fire TV, as well as the Android app. So again, as your host, Lynette LaRoche, I am very thankful to be sharing with you here on Lifestyle Radio Talk Show. And a little bit about me, I have led a very successful career in the biopharma biotech space, where my legacy was 2 drug approvals during the pandemic prior to retiring from industry. And so that was at that time, I founded the LaRoche Method, where I have my signature program where I guide women who are transitioning from corporate to entrepreneurism without sacrificing their multi-six-figure income. And for those who still want to stay in corporate, I also offer leadership and performance consultancy. And so I am very grateful to have been a trainer at mastermind.com, which was founded by Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. And recently, I was the recipient of an honorary doctorate degree, as well as multiple awards for humanitarianism. So I am so excited for this show, where we're going to be talking about foundations. Foundations is integral to everything that we do. It is essential for parents, for students who are on their educational pursuits, for relationships, just living a life full of joy, which this next guest is definitely going to be able to help you to realize that. And it's good for our physical and mental health to have a foundation in place. So today we are going to be talking with Lynda Sunshine West on how breaking through fears set the foundation for running a very successful publishing company. Welcome, Lynda. I'm very excited to have you here. And so before we step in, I want to tell you a little bit about Lynda. At 5 years old, she ran away from home for an entire week. And she came home riddled with fears, and she became a people pleaser. And at the age of 51, she decided that she was going to face one fear every day for an entire year. And then she gained an exorbitant amount of confidence and now uses what she learned to fulfill her mission to empower 5 million people, women and men, to share their stories with the world to make a greater impact on the planet. She is a founder and CEO of Action Taker Publishing, a speaker, 16 times. Has that number changed, Lynda?
Yes, it has.
Yeah, I think it's like 18 times now. 19 times. International Bestselling and award-winning author. Executive contributing author at Brainz Magazine. Executive film producer and red carpet interviewer. She believes in cooperation and collaboration and loves connecting with like-minded people. And she's also a connector. So knowing Lynda Sunshine West is important. You know, she grew up in a volatile, both physically, mentally, and verbally abusive, alcoholic household, and then married someone that was like her dad. And so she was just not letting her voice continue to be stifled. And so again, At 51, she found a life coach who helped her discover who she was and her value so that she can share her voice and speak it out loud. So she no longer sits back at home, and now she speaks on stages everywhere, because I think she's going to be doing a TED Talk soon, as well as interview stars on the red carpet. She makes TV and podcast appearances, publishes books, and, you know, she uplifts communities with her clients. And so she's also donates a percentage of her profits to the Giving Angels, which is a nonprofit. Thank you for being here. So I am so sure our listeners, their spidey senses were piqued when I mentioned that you broke through a fear for an entire year. But before we go there, tell us about life as a people pleaser.
Oh. Well, first, I want to thank you so much for having me on the show and listening to you read all those things. Like, so many different things popped into my head about foundation. And of course, we're going to be talking about that because that's what the show is about. And I'm excited to talk about that because, you know, I grew up, like when you grew up in an abusive environment, you're actually on a rocky foundation. So how do you get that foundation to become solid? And for me, it didn't happen until after age 51, well after 51. You know, so breaking through those fears, I'll just share briefly. A lot of people ask me, you know, did you have a list of fears that you were going to break through? Did you have a system? Like, what was your plan? There was no plan. There was no list. It was literally for 365 days in a row. I would wake up in the morning, and the very first thing I would do is ask myself a question. And that was, what scares me? I would lay in bed. I would wait until the very first fear popped into my head, because when we ask our brain a question, it searches for the answer. And my commitment to myself for an entire year was to break through whatever that fear was that day. So that was the journey I went on, and every fear was different. Like, there were some that were similar, but none were the same, you know? So like this similar underpinning or underlying theme, you know, between the fears. And that was really one of the hugest growth years, actually probably the hugest growth year of my entire life.
Yeah, and I want to touch on several of these points because those are some stacking questions that I'm sure our listeners would also be interested in. But again, you know, when you came back home after running away, and you're saying for like basically for like the next 45 years, you were a people pleaser.
Yeah, that people pleaser piece, you know, because I think back and like thinking about when I was 5. So what made me run away? I actually sat down. I was with Les Brown, you know, for a few hours one day, and we're just talking about, you know, my story. He was very intrigued about my story. And he said, what was it about that day? What was different? 5 years old, you had lived in this environment for 5 years. What was different that made you actually like pack up your bags and leave, right?
Yes.
You know, it's like you're 5 years old. A lot of times, you know, people will, like, parents will make your sandwich and they'll say, okay, have fun running away, you know, but I was gone for a whole week. And what happened in that week was that nobody came to get me. So my 5-year-old little
Oh,
brain,
wow.
yeah, well, see, here's the things. My mom knew where I was, but this 5-year-old did not know my mom
Okay.
knew where I was. Right. So my imagination went wild. They didn't come to get me because they don't love me. They don't want me around. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Right. And so what happened was when I came home riddled with fears, first because my dad was a very volatile, abusive alcoholic. So that's where the fear piece came in. But that also contributed to the people pleaser. If I'm a good girl, maybe they'll like me. Maybe they'll love me. Maybe they'll want me around. If I treat people, you know, if I go above and beyond and I do as much as I possibly can for everybody else and I please them, maybe they'll like me. Maybe they'll love me. Maybe they'll want me around. So that was a pattern that was created in my brain at a very, very young age. And I carried that around for, you know, many, many decades until I was 51 years old.
Wow, that is really amazing. And we're going to pick back there. But before we do, we are going to take a break, commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to pick back up on this discussion and then so many other questions.
Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show, where we talk about food, fashion, finance, and foundations of life. We are live on KCAA Radio Broadcasting Network. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Connect, and Building Solid Foundation.